Hey everyone, welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Flexible Work Times. I used to work in an organization that employed around 6,500 people. It was a great place that did its best to value its employees. It had a really great flexible working scheme where they did their best to accommodate everyone's wishes, providing you had a legitimate reason for requesting that shift pattern as opposed to the one that applied for your department. I was a supervisor in a department of about 350 staff, providing 24/7 cover for customer contact. We get paid an additional 30% on top of our already decent salary for working this pattern. I had about 20 direct reports. One of those was a lad called Joe. According to his friends, Joe was a good mate. According to his family, a saint. But I was neither of those things. I was his boss. For me, Joe was a bit of a jerk. Now, another of the team, let's call her Sandra, had recently been granted a flexible working scheme that allowed her to have every weekend off. She was the envy of the team, because our shift pattern had us working 4 out of 6 weekends. Enter Joe. Joe is a bit of a football fan. And by a bit, I mean I'm pretty sure he would sacrifice his firstborn to give his team a better shot at winning the league. Nothing wrong with having a passion though, right? Joe and his family have apparently been season ticket holders for their club for many years. Now Joe is fairly new to our department, but he's settling in. Performance-wise, he's a little below average. He requests every weekend off during the football season, but is denied. We already have the maximum number of staff permitted off on those days, Joe. Better luck next year. See if someone will swap a shift with you so you can go. And that, I thought, was the end of it. But no, Joe needs those Saturdays off. The team will lose without him there, drunkenly shouting them on. The sacrifice of his child will have been in vain. And then Joe finds out about Sandra's flexible working scheme. Now, what the rest of the team didn't know is that Sandra's dad used to look after her kids on the weekend. But he's been diagnosed very ill and can't manage that anymore. So naturally, work is doing everything they can to support her. Sandra has asked that her colleagues are not told about this, and she has been telling them that she put stress due to workload down as the reason in her application. So Joe approaches me and says, "Hey Mr. Bossman, I want to put a flexible working application in, exactly the same as Sandra. I'm struggling with stress and, workload." "Are you really, Joe? Are you really?" I take Joe aside and double check with him that this application has nothing to do with the football matches he's been complaining about for the last 3 months. "No, you are certain?" He swears on the grave of his still living mother, who is a nice lady, we met once, she smelled like apples. "Well, Joe, I say if it was, I think putting a flexible working application in under improved work-life balance and allowing me to pursue a hobby I'm passionate about would be more successful. But bossman, I'm not guaranteed to have it approved if I say that. Sandra got us through saying stress and workload. They will approve mine too, it's guaranteed." Well, she didn't. "Joe, ideally I think you should reconsider." "Nope, you have to put down what I say, this is my reason." We discussed this round and round for a whole 90 minutes, and I aged 3 decades in that time. Joe eventually states he will put a complaint in about me if I don't put the application in. They had to be signed by managers to say we had discussed them with the employee. I give up. Joe's application goes in exactly as he wants it. By this point he's burned through mine and the team's goodwill. But what Joe doesn't know is that I have supported staff who have generally been struggling before. I know what comes next. Joe gets a meeting with HR, who refers him to a stress counselor to assess his situation. Joe apparently plays it up to the counselor, thinking it's part of the process. The counselor decides that our role is having too much of an adverse effect on Joe's mental health and states he needs to transfer to another department. The only vacancies at the time were for a department that paid a lower rate, who still worked 4 out of 6 weekends. Joe quit 2 months later after complaining every single day about being moved. The next story is called "Ask for Help After Mocking Me." This happened back in the early 1980s, so all dialogue is condensed and paraphrased. I was a 19-year-old, putting myself through school as a sweeper working for the Mouse in Southern California. We sweepers are in every public area of the park, are the most approached employees for questions and are generally knowledgeable and friendly. It is very much a customer service position. It was a good gig and I found the mouse good to work for. My primary work area was centered around the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, which is a major traffic hub in the park. At busy times, most summer days, it was hot, crowded, and by shift end you were glad it was done and ready to go home. I was late into the last hour of my shift, the crowds had thinned out, but the sun was down and the night was pleasant. I was happily cruising about, keeping my area neat, when a pair of 30-something males trottingly approached. Let's call them Mocker 1 and Mocker 2. Hey sweeper, there's some popcorn spilled up by the haunted mansion. Better go clean it up. Mocker 2 laughs nastily. That is some hundreds of yards away in another guy's area. Not only not my problem, but actually, unless some danger was caused by it, I shouldn't go. I put on a friendly smile and a nod. Thanks, we'll get it. Mocker 1 tossed a cup on the ground. Here, get this. With a flourish, I popped it into my pan with my broom. Mocker 2 said in a sneering voice, when is the 3 o'clock parade? This caused Mocker 1 to laugh. Believe it or not, this is a very common question. One that can be heard multiple times a day. Usually it translates to, what is the parade route and when should I get there to get a good spot? But this was at 8:45 PM, I was off at 9, so it was just meant to annoy me and to waste my time. But I answered cheerfully, the 3 o'clock parade will be tomorrow at 3 o'clock. This pair continued on, in this vein, for another 5 minutes. Asking random, generally pointless questions, pointing out the odd cigarette butt, leaf, piece of paper, and generally mocking and sneering at me, my work, and the park. Basically, mocking me for their own entertainment and wasting my time. I found it mildly annoying, but had long ago realized that if 995 out of 1,000 folks are nice and are cheerfully set on having fun, you still get the other 5. And when park attendance ranged from 12 to 55,000, that meant you had 60 to 275 jerks running around on any given day. Knowing that helped me maintain a cheerful perspective. People are, by and large, overwhelmingly nice. Still, as said, it was mildly annoying. It was at this moment that the heavens opened and a choir of angels sang and Mocker 2 asked the single most common question. Oh, hey, I gotta go. Where's the bathroom? Yeah, where is it? Now, in a surprisingly Warren-like space behind me, there was a tiny and hard-to-find restroom. I never sent anyone there, it was well hidden and only guided urgent cases personally. But nope, not this time. The next closest was to my right, across Adventureland, 3 minutes, less if moving urgently. But no, that wasn't the one either. I made a nod and a cheerful customer service smile, motioning my hands for them to turn around. Turn around, see that rail? Go to it and follow it to the right. When it ends, there will be a path on the right. At the end of that path is another path on the right. The restroom is there. And they set off. I am sure that they were quite expressive when they arrived, 2 lanes away, halfway across the park to the tiny elderly restroom in Fantasyland. 10 minutes later I was off and I never saw those 2 again. Jerk move? Arguably so, I cannot deny. But I file it under play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And it is an example of the lack of wisdom of asking directions from after mocking and belittling a stranger. The last story is called Spicy. So this happened to my wife about 3 or 4 years ago. My wife is from Thailand and she used to be a manager at a Thai restaurant. One night, as the restaurant was close to closing, some guy, 40-ish, whom I call Spicy Guy, walks in with a younger lady. Already, my wife and her coworker are annoyed, but whatever, she remains professional and seats them. Her coworker waits on the table and the couple orders. I don't know what the lady ordered, but Spicy Guy ordered red curry and specifically asked it to be spicy, like really spicy. My wife is already used to dealing with these types. Their way of flexing is to show how much spice they can eat and in the case with this guy also impress his date. So fine, they make it spicy. His curry comes out, he takes a spoonful and he sends it back because it's still not spicy enough. What might have been a mild annoyance at any other time of the day is a serious aggravation. He came in when it was already close to closing time and he sends his food back even though it was made to his specifications. The main reason he's doing this is that he wants to impress his date. Again, my wife knows these types and he also probably is doing this to impress the staff. Like my wife and her coworkers are going to think, wow, that white guy can really eat some spice. But that actually never happens. So my wife talks to Spice Guy and tells him that it is going to be really spicy. He says he's cool with that in a totally bro type way. He specifically tells her, do it like how you eat. Again, my wife is Thai. Before she herself remakes this dish, she asked him to pay in advance, which he does. She takes the curry bag and adds 2 heaping spoonfuls of freshly ground Thai chilies. This in a bowl that is relatively small. But it is indeed how she eats. She takes the curry bag and Spicy Guy looks satisfied. There are no other customers and all the checks, receipts and money have been counted, so she just sits and watches. Spicy Guy then takes a spoonful of curry. My wife sees his face and then clearly notices the look of pain as well as the look of knowing there is more pain to follow. By this point he's made such a big show in front of his date and my wife and her co-workers of how much spice he can eat, so to save face he eats every last spoonful of the curry. He and his date leave. Since they were done with closing duties, Spicy Guy and his date notwithstanding, my wife and her co-worker close the restaurant right after. When the doors are locked, my wife and her co-workers head to Kroger, which is across the street because they both need to do a little shopping. As they are entering the parking lot, they see Spicy Guy right in front of them. Her co-worker saw him first. Hey, isn't that the guy? Sure enough, Spicy Guy had immediately left the restaurant, gone to Kroger and rushed to the bathroom, where he presumably blew it up. My wife never saw him nor his date again. But who knows, maybe Spicy Guy and his date are still together. Hopefully though, they just stick with steak and potatoes. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. And now, I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.